Thank you, Deputy Speaker, for this opportunity for me to make my intervention as we continue to discuss, debate, educate our citizens on the Appropriation Bill 2024-2023, as was presented by the Honorable Prime Minister, the mover of the bill, and our representative for constituency number 8. Madam Speaker, last week, Wednesday, was a very important day in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis, because we, for the second time as a government, were able in this parliament to receive an appropriation bill, that is the budget, that would cover us for the period 2024, starting from January to December of 2024. And this particular appropriation bill was introduced and followed by the budget presentation by the Honorable Minister of Finance, our member for constituency number 8. And so I make my own contribution to this continuing debate over the last few days in my capacity as the Minister with responsibility for the Ministries of Foreign Affairs, International Trade, Industry, Commerce and Consumer Affairs, and Economic Development and Investment. I want to say from the beginning that I am quite happy to be providing leadership to these critical ministries at this important juncture in our country's development. I am happy to be part of this government under the astute leadership of our Prime Minister, the Honorable Member for constituency number 8. In fact, I'm pleased to have been given this opportunity so to do, considering that I myself, on many, many, many occasions over the last nearly 20 years that I served, was also able to provide the same leadership in terms of looking at the country's plans for economic development and meeting the necessary expenditure, and thus being responsible for raising the necessary revenue so that we would have been able to realize our goals and objectives in moving the country forward. And so again, I said that having been there and having been here now, I want to thank the Prime Minister for this opportunity. Madam Speaker, the vision that has been outlined by our Minister of Finance, Prime Minister, this vision of building a resilient St. Kitts and Nevis is a vision that I share with all of my colleagues, I'm sure, here on this side. And I believe, listening to the debate so far, from the other side as well. The vision is the creation of the first model sustainable island state to be found anywhere in the world. Madam Speaker, this vision is ambitious, but it is achievable at the same time. And this vision is an exercise in what I will describe as transformational development, governance, and politics. This vision is a credible one because it is being led by a St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party government, one that is steeped in its history of delivering for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And again, I emphasize that this vision is credible because the areas of which I have responsibility are areas which I believe I am capable of delivering upon because, of course, I am the minister with these responsibilities. Madam Speaker, every substantive development leap that this federation has undergone over the years has the fingerprints of a St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party-led government. Every single substantive development in this country. There is a myriad of examples, Madam Speaker, from the Central Housing Authority, which we call the CHA in the days when I was a little child, to the National Housing Corporation, which I've had the privilege of assisting in being brought into operation. The St. Kitts Nevis Anguilla National Bank, from the penny bank that it was under the leadership of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party government. The Social Security Scheme developed, advanced from the National Provident Fund, again, was under the leadership of the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party government. Multiple minimum wage adjustments, again, instituted. And as you've heard during the debate over the last few days, it took a Labour government to be back in office after 10 years to have minimum wage increases for the ordinary workers in this country. During my administration, there were two in particular. And of course, we have had this particular announcement made just only a few days ago when Dr. Drew, the finance minister, outlined that the workers of this country would have the opportunity for an increase in the minimum wage, though it is taken in two steps, from where it is at $360 to $500 per week. The Frigate Bay Development Corporation became the spearhead of the tourism development on the island of St. Kitts, taken from private citizens who owned that privately, where ordinary poor people had to pay to go to the beaches there. Today, the Frigate Bay Development Corporation has established the Frigate Bay Development for all of the people of this country and for our visitors from abroad. The universal education that we have introduced, again, under a Labour administration. And this has moved from what it used to be, the elementary school, with the grammar school and the girls' high school, the only two secondary schools. When the College of Preceptors, CP as they call it, was introduced in those which were elementary schools after we began to advance. And today we speak of not only universal education, but we can speak of the Clarence Fitzroy Bryan College, where every student, as has been outlined by the Prime Minister, is able to attend once you've got the aptitude, no longer chosen because you have money or not. So, Mr. Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, sorry, we have moved this far. We have achieved all of these things. The Paul Southwell Industrial Estate, the industrial estate in Sandy Point, in both Frigate Bay, in both Bird Rock and Ponds. All these came about as part of the transformative development that has been undertaken by the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party government. And then the transition from sugar agriculture to a diversified, services-centered economy, again, introduced, pursued by the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party government. And this, of course, has been enhanced by the Citizenship by Investment Program and the CBI dividends, just to name a few. In fact, we give credit to the creation of the Citizenship Program when we attained independence on the former national hero, Dr. Sir Kennedy Simmons and his team. But we, being faced with the problems of continuing into the future and providing sustainable livelihoods for our people, we visited the program, and today it is the leading program around the world in this regard. And so, Madam Deputy Speaker, the void, the black hole, the vacuum, the dark ages that we were returned to after we left office in 2015 to 2022, it now takes another Labour administration to pull us out from that black hole and again to move stridently forward in realizing the goals, the aspirations of the ordinary people of this country and lending support to those of the middle class and the upper class, those who are of the business community, whether large or small. We are marching solidly with them to ensure a better life for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. We recognize that for the last 7 years, there was an attempt to eat into the advancements made by the former Labour administration, marked by efforts to create a family dynasty, to rule with a big stick. 7 years in which the people's treasury was plundered and pillaged, while a government held together by what I would call in St. Paul's clammy cherry, stuck together by clammy cherry, reversed the socio-economic advancements that St. Kitts and Nevis had made prior. We did not have the privilege in the past of using the treasury and government projects to supplement our salaries. No, we didn't have that privilege. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, there was a blueprint that was left in 2015 that, if it was followed, would have redounded to the benefit of all our citizens here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Instead, critical projects came to an end or were simply not pursued. A project like Kittishan Hill in the Whitegate development area held up for almost 3 years. Someone searching for corruption. What corruption? 3 years that project was left almost unattended simply because it was a gem, an iconic gem created by the Labour administration. And those in charge were determined not to allow it to shine. And today, where are we when critical projects came to an end or were simply not pursued? There were no investments whatsoever in water infrastructure.
None.
The energy infrastructure, none. And there was refusal to do any visible work on the construction of a new Bastia High School, even after millions of dollars were expended in that regard. And there was the ending of the one-to-one laptop program, to name just a few, because the Labour administration of the past recognized where we were going in a new world, where technology was going to be important, where maybe we had stayed in sugar for too long and wanted to catch up very quickly with regard to where the rest of the world was going. Introduce the laptop computer program for each child in high school, stopped by the government that had, of course, no vision. And so, Madam Speaker, Madam Deputy Speaker, permit me, with those introductory words, to look at the individual ministries to which I have been assigned. And so I want us to look firstly at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The year 2023, though less challenging than the preceding 3 years due to the COVID pandemic, also has had its obstacles to surmount. Nationally, the ministry's financial outlay was inadequate to meet all the aspirations that the ministry had set out to accomplish during the year. Similarly, with respect to mobilizing resources to fulfill our own national goals, the economic uncertainty was palpable, as we noted the grave impact that the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict, the disruption in supply chains, and growing inflation continue to have on world economies. The international environment continues to send a clarion call that it cannot and must not be business as usual. The world continues to undergo rapid changes that require a paradigm shift in the conduct of international relations and foreign policy development. To maintain competitiveness in the diplomatic arena, it calls for upgrading of the institutional and the human development capability. The changing environment demands both flexibility and, of course, firmness and adeptness in order to discern when to alternate between both. And so, Madam Deputy Speaker, in 2024, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs will focus on foreign policy planning and development, and continues to seek assistance from a kaleidoscope of experts in various disciplines, Madam Deputy Speaker. Those disciplines that can inform and influence our interactions with international partners around the world. We are prioritizing and building capacity in research and analytical skills through a foreign affairs and international relationship committee or think tank, that would provide sound advice for informed decision-making within the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Madam Deputy Speaker, in this polycrisis era, it is increasingly important to understand cross-cutting and system-wide effects of changes and crises. As a result, we intend to make coordination and collaboration the order of the day in order to create multi-sectoral and multi-stakeholder solutions in the national interest. And so to this end, the Ministry will organize occasional information sharing sessions to exchange views on how to present a wholesome, all-of-society national perspective to the world. And we'll do this in regular press conferences and other communication means. Further, Madam Deputy Speaker, the Ministry intends to increase its visibility both locally and internationally. This year, the Ministry is intent on heightening awareness of the work of the Ministry and will roll out programs that will enlighten the citizens and residents of its contribution to the national priorities as we move from 2023 to 2024. We aim, Madam Deputy Speaker, to be present at regional and wider meetings where our own perspectives can be articulated and our influence felt on issues that impact upon our own domestic pursuits. The Ministry will boost its engagement with traditional partners and non-state actors and during 2024, we will seek new partners to advocate on our behalf in the corridors where we are absent at the moment, not by choice, but for lack of economies of scale and resources. Madam Deputy Speaker, the Ministry will continue to promote the ideals of a sustainable island state and seize opportunities and partnerships in order to buttress our capacity to meet the objectives of this government-wide initiative. We shall continue to encourage our officers to pursue diplomatic and other relationships that can leverage our own ability to advance toward the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development inter alia, reducing poverty, promoting gender equality, and fostering climate action, etc. In the international sphere, we shall continue to support regional integration and ensure that agreements with foreign countries that they are consistent with our national interest. And we will continue to promote respect for human rights, respect for the rule of law, justice, equality, and non-discrimination, and to continue to express solidarity with nations and peoples where these values are consistently held up. We intend to establish consulates in non-traditional jurisdictions and appoint ambassadors at large for different focus areas. We believe that where it may not be possible to establish an embassy, we can use our networks of persons anxious to be consuls, honorary and otherwise. In fact, Madam Speaker, we can say that to date, we have been pursuing this with some clarity. Saudi Arabia, a country that we had established as a country diplomatic relations with a few years ago, is now fully ready to receive and allow honorary consuls and possibly consul generals to also be part of our diplomatic landscape there. In fact, we had in the past not enjoy much support from Saudi Arabia. But recently, the kingdom has made it clear that it is open to do business with us here in the Caribbean region. And for the first time, a few weeks ago, all 14 countries of the Caribbean community held its first summit with the government of Saudi Arabia in order to give substance to that new thinking. In the past, we've had and enjoyed relationships with Kuwait. Kuwait has been responsible through its generosity to undergo a number of important developments, infrastructural developments in Nevis in particular, especially at the waterfront, and the airport as well. When I was there a few weeks ago with the Prime Minister at COP28, I took a one-day visit over to Kuwait in order to strengthen our relationship with them and to ensure that from the discussions I've had with officials that St. Kitts and Nevis again is open to do business in an expansive way with Kuwait. In fact, while I'm saying that, may I ask this House to recognize that period of mourning that is undergoing right now in Kuwait, where Sheikh Nawaf Al-Ahmad Al-Sabah has passed away. And that country today is in mourning. This parliament, I'm sure, would support my own call for us to recognize the work of this emir or ruler of Kuwait on his passing, of the work that he has done to advance life of the ordinary people and not so ordinary people here in St. Kitts and Nevis. Madam Deputy Speaker, we intend to continue to do this with other countries. It came to our attention late last year that we had never established diplomatic relations with Ireland. Ireland, a country that is supposed to be close to us, itself being an island state. And so, promptly in January of this year, we established diplomatic relations with Ireland, the Republic of Ireland. And just a few weeks ago, when I was there, we began discussions with regard to the appointment of consular and diplomatic appointments to ensure that the work and the relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis and Ireland will continue. Apart from that, Madam Speaker, we are aware that the United Kingdom is no longer a member of the European Union. We have serious matters that are of concern to us, which are being discussed by the European Union almost every day. And we do not have a voice there anymore with the United Kingdom gone. And so Ireland has been targeted as that country that will become our voice in the European Union, so that all we are doing here, especially in pursuit of our economic development through the CBI, Citizenship by Investment program, that they would understand that we are not selling passports. That's not what we are doing. We are not selling passports at all. We are inviting citizens who have credibility, who have proven to have track record without any corruption associated with them and their money, to invest in our country. And if they so pass our litmus test, we invite them to become citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. This nonsense that you heard from the former Prime Minister that we were selling passports, like Miss Mem on a Saturday morning selling black pudding, totally out of place. Yet in one project, he would have sold more than 25,000 passports. He sold, but we are not selling. That's the whole point. And the point I am making, Madam Deputy Speaker, is that this is an important program that needs support at all levels, not only in the Caribbean region, but in countries that sit in the same space where we cannot sit, but who can speak for us on matters that mean a lot for St. Kitts and Nevis and its people. And so Ireland has come on board. I was very pleased to be present at COP28, myself and advisor Chris Freeman, when Ireland launched in Dubai 2 weeks ago its own program that associates itself with the small island developing states and pledged then and continues to pledge today that it is a partner that will work with us in our continued development for the future. Madam Speaker, our ministerial aspirations for 2024, Madam Deputy Speaker, are about building on our 2023 successes both at home and abroad. On the home front, the ministry's main achievement of 2023 was the successful hosting of Diplomatic Week, the first since the COVID-19 pandemic. The number of countries that participated in this event surpassed those of previous years, and the countries represented were more varied. Most of the participants were visiting the Federation for the first time. For example, Egypt. We've been having some problems with our citizens who are not born in St. Kitts and Nevis, but who would have been born in the Middle East. They tend to treat them at the border with discrimination. And so it was important for me when I went to Cuba on the 16th day of September, National Heroes Day. I happened to be in Cuba for the Prime Minister. I made sure that I visited the Egyptian ambassador there in Cuba. And so he returned. I invited him to come, look at the country, send back reports to your people. This is a real country. And so he came for the first time. And that ambassador was able, with enthusiasm, to make favorable representation that there has to be a readjustment of Egypt's policy with regard to citizens crossing into Egypt from the Middle East. Because they are saying there are issues there. And they want to make sure that people who are carrying our passports are genuinely having our passports issued from capital. Because some wicked people seem to be trying to produce fake passports of our country. Of all the countries in the world, they're choosing St. Kitts and Nevis because it is so important to them and to the rest of the world. And so we have to make sure that Egypt understands that we do have a citizenship program. We told him, look around the country. We showed him what our program has done to advance the infrastructural development of our country. This is a real country. And we only invite persons to carry our passports after they have been checked and are credible. And we can prove through all of our due diligence checks that we've done that their money is not from corrupt means. So this is important. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, we want to make sure that the beauty of our landscape and the plethora of areas for potential cooperation, that they are kept alive. Most of these participants, as I said, they were visiting for the first time. And they were able to speak firsthand of the warmth and hospitality of our people, the beauty, as I said before, of our landscape, and the areas that they can assist us with regard to cooperation. Egypt is important to us, as the Prime Minister will say to you, because when we got into office, it was Egypt, one of the few countries where people from the Afexim Bank had identified possible areas for investment here in St. Kitts and Nevis, fisheries, for example. And so these important contacts are critical for us to move forward. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, that is, the visiting diplomats and the private sector entities, they provided financial donations and technological equipment while they were here to advance the thrust toward digital transformation. The Ministries of Health and Agriculture in particular, and the St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency, SKIPA, made presentations to all those participants who were here. And this, of course, increased the awareness about our areas for possible investment. And Madam Deputy Speaker, during the week of the 23rd to the 28th of April this year, a total of approximately 30 countries and 50 guests descended on our capital. We were able to have 14 new ambassadors and high commissioners present, and they, for the first time, presented their credentials to our head of state, Her Excellency the Dame, and also to the head of government, that is our Prime Minister. I can assure you, Madam Speaker, that our goal of sharing our vision for a sustainable island state, the strategic networking and building partnerships were achieved in hosting Diplomatic Week 2023. Our ministry, Madam Deputy, was able to utilize the occasion of our 40th anniversary as well, of independence that is, in September, to harness our own diplomatic agenda. We celebrated our equally 40-year-old relationship with the Republic of China on Taiwan and welcomed the Minister of Foreign Affairs to our capital city, Bastia. The Republic of China's Special Honor Guard was in fact a signal moment in our celebrations. And I mentioned them because for the Minister of Foreign Affairs to have journeyed here to participate in these celebrations and mark the 40th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations, I think is important. Madam Speaker, and came to Nevis as well. Even though his time was short, he made sure the entire Federation was covered. Thanks. Madam Speaker, the same opportunity was utilized to commemorate the 40th anniversary of diplomatic relations with Venezuela, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, and a wreath-laying ceremony at the National Heroes Park in Conakry was held for this purpose. We must not write off Venezuela as a partner in our development. I don't have to outline all that Venezuela would have done through its former President Chavez to come to our assistance and aid during the crisis, economic and financial crisis of 2008, 2009, 2010. We know that there may be some challenges at this time in terms of the relationship with the Republic of Guyana, but I'm so very pleased to know that our Prime Minister was part of that delegation that brought the two heads together. And we have a commitment that they will not go to war over that period, or over that portion of territory, which in fact in which they have become embroiled because of the colonial situation so many years ago. And we are hoping, therefore, that they would settle down, because Venezuela is an important partner for us. And as soon as the dust is settled in the new year, Prime Minister is aware that President Ali has been inviting us, an investment team, a trade team, to come to Guyana and see how Guyana can assist St. Kitts and Nevis, because they remember that Guyana, in its very dark days, it is to St. Kitts that many of their citizens came and lived well here. And Ali is aware, through his own family connections here in St. Kitts. His mother-in-law is here. So whenever you are ready, soon as the time presents itself, let us come together and see what Guyana can do to assist you in your economic development and as a trading partner. So this is important for us. We were able to host approximately 20 countries who were represented at Capitol to mark our 40th anniversary of independence. And the opportunity was used for the presentation of credentials by no less than 10 ambassadors, apart from those who a few weeks before would have come during the diplomatic week. Madam Deputy Speaker, we of course used the opportunity to have varying conversations with our diplomatic partners, with the strategic objective of nurturing relationships that would help us in the pursuit of a sustainable island state agenda. Madam Deputy Speaker, we are most proud of the investments that we made in our offices at the ministry. Approximately 20 members of staff at the ambassadorial level, technical and administrative staff levels engaged in many man-hours of training and participation in workshops, seminars, and meetings. These sessions spanned and ranged from topics including diplomacy, international relations, human rights, nuclear safety and security, nuclear disarmament, among other things. Our ministry and our country are better off for these substantive engagements, both at home and abroad around the world. Somebody keep the time for me, please. Madam Speaker, our achievements throughout the world at our embassies, consulates, and high commissions are to be celebrated. I want to thank our ambassadors, all of them. I want to thank our high commissioners, all of them. I want to thank the charge d'affaires who have taken charge when necessary for the value and the scope of their work, which they continue to provide as part of our mission to engender the continued socio-economic development of our citizens at home and also, of course, abroad. Madam Speaker, our nationals continue to take up opportunities for study in Cuba. And this year we had 3 graduates, a doctor of medicine, a civil engineer, and a health technologist. All important additions to our cadre of Cuban-trained professionals here in the Federation. In addition, 7 of our nationals were able to access medical care in Cuba, 2 were totally funded by the Cuban government itself, and another 3 partially funded. It has been a busy year at our own High Commission in Ottawa, and we have benefited significantly from the achievements attained at the High Commission. 4 of them are noteworthy. 1, travel facilitation. Canada's decision to relax its restriction for travel between St. Kitts and Nevis and Canada is a consequence of a multi-channel strategic communication and diplomatic campaign executed by the team at the High Commission and at the political level. And today, I recognize the work that would have been initially or initiated by former Foreign Minister, Mr. Nisbet. And that was continued to a large extent and taken to the highest level by member for number 9, sitting across from us when he served as foreign minister. And I want to also commend the high commissioners that spanned that period, Her Excellency Shirley Skerritt, and also Her Excellency, Miss Truss, who under her watch really continued to hammer this until our goal was achieved. Let us give them tremendous applause for their achievement. Madam Speaker, CARICOM Canada Summit was important, where Canada reaffirmed its relationship with the Caribbean region, not only met foreign ministers at the annual General Assembly of the OAS earlier this year, but a few weeks ago, I accompanied the Prime Minister to Canada, where there was the first in Canada, summit of CARICOM leaders and the Prime Minister of Canada. This, I believe, was a high-level meeting of leaders who pledged to reorient the long-standing partnership toward a strategic partnership for a resilient future. And this was a direct result of consistent, quiet, regional diplomacy, with St. Kitts and Nevis at the vanguard through its deanship of the Caribbean Group of Ambassadors and High Commissioners in Ottawa under former High Commissioner, Sherry Truss. Again, this important High Commissioner never for one moment questioned what her duties were, upfront in pursuing them. There was also accession to the La Francophonie. This was a decision taken by the Cabinet to greenlight St. Kitts and Nevis's accession to the La Francophonie, which marks a geostrategic approach informed by the work of the team at the High Commission. It in fact also leverages the Federation's history, its culture, and soft power to intensify and amplify business, trade, tourism, and investment with Francophone Canada. It is important for us to recognize that Canada, as one of the founding countries of the Francophonie, it represents efforts to consolidate relationships with traditional partners, including France. And so this is significant to us, given the exit of Britain, again, from the European Union, because decision-making at that level will always involve the members who are present there. France is now, or continues to be, a member of the EU, a very important member of the EU. So we've lost the UK, but here we are as a small country, strategically determining who we should go after. And we wanted to make sure that France can understand our development needs and thus represent us appropriately when it sits in the cabinets of the EU. So we became a member on the suggestion of Canada. You want to get closer to France, become part of the Francophonie group. And so the cabinet a few months ago took the decision to allow St. Kitts and Nevis to become a part of the Francophonie group. And so we can now call upon France as one of our bigger brothers to ensure that our voice, our concerns, our development needs are echoed at the highest level within the European Union. This is significant given, as I was saying, the exit of Britain from the EU decision-making process. St. Kitts and Nevis, it borders France, and building this geostrategic partnership is crucial for inter-island and multi-island partnerships. I pause here because we would have mentioned earlier, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, when the Minister of Tourism presented and speaking on the matter of civil aviation, would have indicated that we were having some issues with regard to passengers flying from St. Bartholomew, who are French, into St. Kitts, and then leaving without having appropriate security checks. And the minister became seized of this with the appropriate advisors that she has. And just last week, in the cabinet, we made settlement of this matter, where France has agreed that passengers flying on any aircraft that comes to St. Kitts from St. Bartholomew would first go to St. Martin and have the appropriate screening. And so this is part of, again, building the relationship with France, because France shares the same border with St. Kitts and Nevis through those islands offshore. So this is very, very important in moving forward. Nothing must stop the continued expansion of tourism in St. Kitts and Nevis. Nothing must interfere with our relationship with France. Nothing must prevent our people from doing their work at our airports in terms of security checks. And we want to make sure that under friendly terms, we can negotiate these matters and come out better prepared and ready to move forward. And so, in this regard, I want to really not only thank our officers in the Ministry of Tourism, but also I want to give some thanks to our Charge, Eustace Wallace, who, in the absence of mistrust in Ottawa, is now heading our mission. So Eustace, we want to thank him for his strategic intervention. Yes, good Nevis man, I know that. We want to thank him for his strategic intervention and guidance on this very accomplishment. And speaking of that, we included Eustace in our team to go to COP28. People say, oh, you have 27 people or whatever. Every single person was chosen because of what contribution he would bring. And he was able, in particular, to bring us in direct contact with those of the business community and those who were making grants and aids to countries like ours in achieving our aims at getting to where we say we want to get, a small island developing state. And so, small island, a sustainable island state as a small island. Madam Speaker, men and women out there are working. They're not perfect, and we are not perfect, but they are working to realize the national agenda for pushing St. Kitts and Nevis forward and for the development agenda to continue. Another important return from the accomplishments that we've had was the facilitation of student exchanges. Through efforts from our High Commission in Canada, 2 student exchange visits were facilitated between the Clarence Fitzroy College, CFBC, and the Canadian tertiary institutions, namely Dalhousie University and Nova Scotia Community College. A few weeks ago, when I visited Canada, when High Commissioner Truss was exiting the job, we had some important discussions with key people in Canada. And one of these was a team from the Dalhousie University and Nova Scotia Community College. I remember when I took up the leadership of this country back in 1995, with the support of our then Governor General, the late Sir Cuthbert Sebastian, we visited Dalhousie in Canada, Nova Scotia. At that time, healthcare was under serious threat. We did not even have a radiologist in our hospital. None was in St. Kitts. The radiographer at that time, Mr. Vincent Williams from Old Road, he was the radiographer. And he would be able to call a doctor and say, boy, I'm picking up this and that on the x-ray. A technician. As a medical doctor, I said, no, that is not good enough. We need to do something. So Dr. Sebastian said, let's go to Dalhousie. And we were the first, I believe, I think Trinidad followed long after. We were the first to use, in a serious clinical way, radio telemedicine. We had all of our films taken for the day, uploaded, and sent to Dalhousie. They read them and sent the results back so that by morning the doctor knew what exactly was wrong and what, therefore, treatment can be administered. Dalhousie remembered that. And so when I was there a few months ago, we again discussed how can we get back to that relationship that we established so many years ago. And you know why it's possible and why it will work? It's for us to identify exactly what it is that we want. Because the son of one of our national heroes, Southwell, he's now the president of Dalhousie University. Rustam is the president of Dalhousie University. The first to be given that appointment was a black man from the Caribbean region. And so we are moving. It is for us, therefore, to leverage all of these connections that we have and make sure that we can deliver on this agenda that has been set for ourselves as a government, to make our people realize the developmental agenda that we have for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I think I'm running behind. How much time have I had?
You have just spoken for 58 minutes.
You have about 31 minutes remaining.
Of the
first hour and a half.
Of the first hour and a half.
And you have to be nice to us to get the rest.
Honourable Member for St. Christopher 6. Honourable Members. Honourable Member for St. Christopher 6 is presenting. His time is still going. So please stop interrupting.
Don't take up my time. Madam Speaker, in Washington this year, our new ambassador, Her Excellency Jacinth Henry Martin, presented her credentials formalizing representation of St. Kitts and Nevis at the ambassadorial level before the government of the United States of America and the Organization of American States. Previously, we had two separate ambassadors. Now we've come back to one ambassador, delivering on two agendas at the OAS and with the United States government. Her Excellency brings with her a profound wealth of knowledge and experience, and we are certain that we will see a marked improvement in relations between both countries and achievements which redound to the strategic benefit of our twin island state. And while saying that, let me thank our outgoing U.S. ambassador to St. Kitts and Nevis. I'm sure that this Parliament would recognize the tremendous support that she would have provided in building a sounder and stronger relationship between St. Kitts and Nevis. And as she moves out on retirement, this Parliament, I'm sure, says to her, thanks for your service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. Madam Speaker, our Washington office, discussions have been advanced with the Howard University College of Medicine to cement plans for medical students to undertake rotations at our own Joseph and France General Hospital and other centers for the delivery of health care in St. Kitts and Nevis. Representatives of the Federal Ministry of Health and the Howard University College of Medicine also discussed broader areas of collaboration, including the possibility of conducting continuing medical education, CME, sessions on specific topics in or with St. Kitts and Nevis. We believe, Madam Deputy Speaker, that nurturing this relationship has the potential to expand avenues for collaboration, including the possibility of future medical conferences for US-based and international partnerships. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs does not allow one moment to pass without trying to ensure that tourism development continues here in St. Kitts and Nevis and our people benefit. We want to bring hundreds of targeted visitors to our country. And many years ago, when a number of my colleagues who studied medicine with me were in their various disciplines, especially in cardiology, we've had at least 2 major conferences here at that time. We want to recreate that connection so that we can have conferences, medical and scientific conferences brought here, so that our hotels can be filled during the downtime. And our ladies and men working there would have the benefit of continued employment throughout the entire year. That is our aim and ambition, and we shall succeed in that regard. Madam Speaker, our embassy in the Republic of China, Taiwan, under the leadership of our youngest ambassador, His Excellency Daniel Francis, continues to look after the welfare of our many students who take up scholarships to study in that country. And so his leadership also saw the signing of an MOU between the Minister, Joseph Wu, and myself, which will facilitate training opportunities for St. Kitts and Nevis, as well as Taiwanese diplomats. The embassy was also able to secure a donation of 50 first-generation U-bikes to enhance St. Kitts and Nevis' efforts to become a sustainable island state and encourage more physical activity among the citizens and residents. Madam Deputy Speaker, before I bring this section, too long, to an end, but it is important, foreign affairs is important. Before I bring it to an end, I just want to highlight 1 or 2 other matters. I spoke of the relationship with Canada through Ottawa being re-established. I want to say that we've had visa waiver agreement signed in September of this year with Zimbabwe, continuing on the trend that the former minister would have had, member for number 9, in terms of targeting Africa. We've also established diplomatic relations, as I mentioned before, with Ireland. And also in September of this year, we established, for the first time, of course, diplomatic relations with Equatorial Guinea. Again, a wealthy African state. Wealthy African state. Issues there, but we will navigate and make sure opportunities for investment are brought here. I make mention of the appointment of Jacinth Henry Martin. I make mention of completing what was started by the former administration with regard to Her Excellency Vernon Mills being the ambassador to the Republic of South Africa, non-resident. I also, of course, make mention of the, I wouldn't make mention, I would say, of the appointment of Dr. Norjan Wilson, His Excellency Dr. Wilson, ambassador to the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, non-resident. And I mentioned that we've already started some discussions to get a non-resident ambassadorial appointment with regard to Ireland. And that, of course, is still to be discussed finally and fully at the cabinet level and with the Prime Minister's support and consent. We did have new appointments in our office in New York. We've had to revisit that, and when the time comes, we will indicate exactly how we move forward with regard to the head of the mission there in New York at the United Nations permanent representation. I also want to announce that we've always been trying to rekindle the relationship that we had with United States Department of State with regard to someone in Miami to assist us as an honorary consul. The traffic through Miami of government and other officials who need support, that was something that the U.S. continued to speak to us about. And finally, the cabinet has approved, after all has been cleared, a Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, who is going to be our honorary consul in Miami and would be able to facilitate our movement of government officials, etc., through the Miami port whenever it becomes necessary. I would also say that at the moment, we are also looking at having a similar appointment, consulate appointment, for one of our citizens or one of our strong national support in West Palm. And we are waiting for the United States Department of State to give us the nod on that before that can be completed. I want to say, Madam Deputy Speaker, that these are important developments that have taken place. And I just want to mention one thing before I move on, and that is, as we look at our initiatives for 2024, I want to speak specifically to staff training and rotation and hiring of new people. We have increased the training budget for 2024 as we build out our training suite in a vast array of areas, including foreign policy development and analysis, in terms of customer service, diplomacy, negotiations, etc. But we also intend to rotate the staff across missions and to and from capital. Cabinet has taken the position that people have been in position for long periods of time. Time has come for us to rotate. And so we will target also for hire persons with specialized expertise in a number of areas to assist in informed decision making. And I made mention before of what I called the Foreign Affairs and International Relations Committee, FAIR Committee, which is going to bring support to the ministry, especially in making important decisions that will impact positively on our development. With those few words, Madam Speaker, I move on from... sorry?
We have new premises in D.C.
Oh, yes.
Yes, of course. Yes. Yes, the member for number 9 is reminding me that the new ambassador, Ambassador Martin, has moved into new premises, our own residence bought in Washington, D.C. And that needs some support.
Owned by the government.
Owned by the government, totally, fully owned by the government. And, right. And in fact, I don't know how many OECS countries would have done that. In fact, very few, I would think. But St. Kitts and Nevis is leading in that regard. You remember that we were together as an OECS team in Canada and also in Washington. We shared the same. And we took the decision to purchase what was then owned by the OECS. St. Kitts and Nevis bought it. And so today it is the residence and also housing the High Commission. Well, not the High Commission, but the embassy in Washington, D.C. on behalf of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to turn very quickly, Madam Deputy Speaker, to the other aspect, which is international trade, industrial commerce, and consumer affairs. How much time do I have now? A half an hour?
About 20 minutes.
20 minutes, my God. And, I want to basically say that this is a very, very important ministry. It is the ministry that is lending support to the transitioning of the economy. We are appealing to small businesses. We're appealing to large businesses. We are saying to the rest of the world that we believe that we can do certain things here that we can sell to the international community. And so we have a number of challenges, nevertheless, especially on the cusp of a year that has been filled with great optimism. And so I speak very confidently that 2024 is going to be a very optimistic year for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. The collapse of the global supply system is a problem. And that is why, to a large extent, we felt very strongly that we have to pay closer attention with regard to the movement of goods in and out of our country. How much it costs us. How can we reduce costs? Although we are not in a good position to reduce costs, because a lot of that is dependent on the international community, and as you know, the disruptions that we've had because of ongoing conflicts, we nevertheless can make sure that when the price of the goods are determined, that they are fair prices. We want to make sure that even though what appears to be, to economists, that there's something fundamentally wrong when you have to impose a tax on another tax, as was mentioned by member number 9 a few days ago. That is an anomaly, which, however, is accepted into the pair in international trade. So how can we do something about those serious challenges? One of the things that we are seeking to do, Madam Deputy Speaker, is to ensure that there's a new paradigm shift in the manufacturing sector. There was a time, as you've heard, during COVID, the United States government, being short in its supplies of respirators, realized that Howard Sober Control was actually producing a part for respirators and asked that that factory remain open even when the rest of the country was shut down. It means then that depending on what we are producing, it is in high demand around the world. We want to get back to that stage where we can say to potential investors, here is St. Kitts and Nevis, ready to do business again. A new administration is in place. COVID is behind us. Come and work with us in moving our country forward. You hear of the government's intention of investing in renewable energy. You've heard of the contacts we have made. The signatures have been applied to documents with commitment to invest $40 million US, $20 million US another way, $80 million another place. We want to ensure then that we have enough energy to power new factories that we want established here in St. Kitts and Nevis. I was with the Prime Minister in Canada when we went to Ottawa for the summit. We had lunch with some Taiwanese persons. And we said to them, the time has come for us, for you and us to consider whether we can be fit in your scheme of development in terms of semiconductors. It's going to take enormous amount of energy, they said. And we said, no problem. We are investing in geothermal in Nevis. We will have more than what we can consume. He said, we would need labor. No problem. Our young people are bright. We are introducing them to the new technologies. They are going off to universities. They are pursuing their goals. We can do it together, is what we emphasized. I want to say to our people, nothing is unattainable under this new administration. And we will use our contacts. We will use our determination to bring new investments into the country. We want to see the industrial estate a new face with new people, not the 60-year-old ladies or not the young girls who got pregnant in school, couldn't find any other work except going into the cane field and went to the factories to work. No, that image must change. And it is the duty of this government to ensure that we provide the environment that would allow that to change for the benefit of our young people. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, I'm running out of time. But there are certain things I have to say. You know, I want to go very quickly to investment, apart from consumer affairs, which we've dealt with in Parliament by the Consumer Protection Act, but investment and economic development. That is also a very important part of my portfolio. And to a large extent, Madam Speaker, apart from ensuring that we develop the capacity of our standards of bureau, developing the capacity, Madam Speaker, to ensure that the Bureau of Standards in St. Kitts and Nevis is recognized internationally, ensuring that the Bureau of Standards can continue to play its very important role as St. Kitts and Nevis faces the world that has become hostile, but for which we must prepare ourselves. I make mention specifically of the importance of standards, because standards are of utmost importance in our Federation's National Quality Infrastructure, NQI. For the Federation to engage in international trade, it is imperative that we establish trustworthy partnerships. Trustworthy partnerships. There must be trust among parties who are trading with each other. And so the standards, the appropriate standards being pursued and attained will encourage trust as we try to develop our country as a trading partner with the rest of the world. And so I want to commend those brave young men and women in our various labs in the Bureau of Standards and the multipurpose lab that we have. They are the ones who have made it possible.
Honorable Member, I don't mean to interrupt, but you have 10 more minutes remaining.
10 more minutes of
That's
me.
before you answer the initial.
Oh, you frightened me. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. So I was saying that as we try our very best to give alternative enterprises and opportunities for our young people, and not so young, we want to emphasize in this government that the Bureau of Standards and the multipurpose lab must continue to play a critical part. We want to make sure, Madam Deputy Speaker, that all those who are pursuing business enterprises that would require certain specific standards, that our Bureau of Standards and the multipurpose lab is there to achieve these. These standards, they are identified by technical committees made up of key stakeholders in this country who decided that as a country we would adopt the following standards to give support for our new enterprises in certain areas. And so businesses, they can offer products that meet international requirements, thereby gaining market access. Consumers, they are held to attain certain standards. Consumers would be afforded a wider range and choice of safe, reliable, and consistent products and services. The government, they will have the scientific and technological basis to impose technical regulations based on health, on safety, and the environment to ensure their national interests. And trade officials have to be held to standards. Trade officials, they can skillfully use standards to level the playing field for trading and settling disputes, often out of court. This is because, Madam Speaker, the country has changed and continues to change. We want to make sure that our small businesses, that they are doing things right, so that trust can be established between them and their consumers or their trading partners. I believe it is important to note that there is generally maybe a call for the reduction of trade barriers. Well, this reduction of trade barriers often occurs when a government implements measures that are scientifically grounded and based on standards. This is because the application of standards to defend a country's national position can lead to the removal of obstacles to trade. And so again, we emphasize the importance of using the SKNIS Bureau of Standards and our multi-purpose laboratories that we have there. I emphasize again that imposing tariffs based on standards might put a country's government in an advantageous position to generate additional income. So this is important to us. I don't want to go into detail too much about 5757 Codex standards, because I think you can read up these for yourself. But it is important, Madam Deputy Speaker, to make the point that genuine trade occurs when we have established a sufficient level of trust to export our goods with minimal disagreement. standards. Standards are the primary means of establishing this confidence. And we are asking all of you, small producers, whatever, use what we have, the Bureau of Standards, with the multipurpose laboratory services that it provides. I want to say that the Bureau testing laboratories of chemistry and biology, these are available. Something as simple as dialysis, which we speak about a lot today because a lot of our people are undergoing dialysis. We want to make it clear that our laboratories, with their upkeep, would be advancing the implementation of standardization and conformity assessment, thereby guaranteeing the maintenance of high quality in product testing for assurance purposes. I want to applaud again the young people in these labs, some of whom have been there for years, under difficult circumstances in terms of the permanency of their jobs, but nevertheless continuing to work. The Bureau has already obtained accreditation for air quality later or earlier in the latter part of this year. And it is now currently pursuing accreditation in chemistry and microbiology. I want to use an example, as I said before, dialysis. Water is utilized for several delicate applications in biomedical labs and hospitals, particularly in dialysis equipment. Eliminating detrimental waste, eliminating excessive salt in the system and fluids aids in regulating a patient's blood pressure, thus maintaining what we call the appropriate pH equilibrium, balance, acid, and whatever. Alkaline. Well, who said that? Right. And managing plasma volume akin to the outcomes achieved by a healthy kidney. So you may think it is simple. Patient goes on hemodialysis. It is just plugging you to a machine and your blood is cleansed in the way, as I said, to remove salt, excessive, etc. But if there isn't the appropriate standardization of the equipment, the person dies easily because there's no standard that would have been set and applied in protecting the hemodialysis patient. It is imperative to guarantee the safety and the cleanliness of water utilized in dialysis. And that is a common example of the importance of maintaining certain standards. Madam Speaker, I want very quickly to say that this has had very positive returns. You've heard the Prime Minister in his presentation speak of what the Bureau here in the breweries here in St. Kitts would have achieved. It is because of appropriate standards, recognized and received and accepted internationally, why we are producing more beer or other brewery products than before. People say it is in the water. St. Kitts water is special. Nevis water is special. So the beer is special. But it's the standards that have been attained as we have our products move around the Caribbean and even around the world. Air quality also is an area Metrology is another area that we have attained quite a bit of support and success. And we want to encourage those who are in the multipurpose lab, the SKN Bureau of Standards, to continue their work.
Honourable Member for St. Christopher 6, I apologize, your time has ended.
Full time?
Actually, half an hour.
Oh, Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, permit me to rise and ask for the additional 30 minutes.
The question is that the Honourable Member for St. Christopher 6 be given additional time, not exceeding 30 minutes, to do his presentation. Those in favour? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it.
This is not like last night, huh? I want to thank my colleagues and those opposite for giving me the final 30 minutes to look at economic development and some other aspects. Madam Speaker, I think I've said quite a bit in my earlier part of the presentation that impacts positively on the role that the ministry has to play in achieving the sustainable island state that we have identified. And of course, a lot of this is going to be achieved and pursued and achieved through our own economic development and investment program and policy. Madam Deputy Speaker, we have seen that the Ministry of Economic Development and Investment will continue to actively participate as a ministerial partner with the other key ministries, especially the Ministries of Education, Sustainable Development, Agriculture and Environment and Climate Action, Public Infrastructure and Energy and Utilities, in carving out that path toward our sustainable island state. The key sector analyses suggest, or analyses, I should say, suggest that most of our sectors are on the way to pre-COVID levels of activity. All sectors except one will show 100% recovery by the end of the year 2024. The fiscal year 2023 was spent reorienting the international community with St. Kitts and Nevis. It was saying to the rest of the world, 18 months ago we came in here. It's a new country. We've picked up where we think we have faltered. This is a new administration. Young blood, look at that. Young blood. Young blood. There is one who is iconic, but all young. And so we have been able to convince the rest of the world that something different is happening in St. Kitts and Nevis. I want to thank the opposition for whatever support has been given, because we have to move our country to the next level. Fiscal year 2023 was spent reorienting the international community with St. Kitts and Nevis. It has been our message to the international community, including friendly governments, including international institutions, regional organizations, as well as private individuals and companies who have the capacity to invest substantially in our federal economy, that we are once again open for business. St. Kitts is open for business. No longer people telling you what they used to say. Shut down. What was it? 14 days. 14 days of lockdown. Who in, stay in. Who out, stay out. Well, let who out, stay out. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, we are on a new paradigm. There's a shift that is taking place. And we are up to the task. This team is up to the task. Every single one of them is on point, on target. And we're moving forward. So we say to our investors, we are open for business, and we have completed nearly the restorative work that was required to cancel the image created by the last government prior to and during COVID-19. That there has been a serious challenge throughout the year, but this ministry, and by extension this government on a whole, remains committed to the task of moving the country out of where it was to where it ought to be. At the beginning I said, every single important transformative development in this country was pursued by a Labour administration. Not those who call themselves Labour for convenience. Not those who go and latch up and latch on just to be the big boss there. This is the true Labour government. And this Labour government is open to do business with Nevis and St. Kitts alike, with CCM or NRP in government. We are open to the business as we move along, because we must attain the heights that our forefathers had predicted, the vision that the founding fathers would have seen when they say our motto must be for the good that we can do. And so, Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, our next steps are informed by the work being done on our National Development Planning Framework for 2023 to 2037, and the pillars of the Sustainable Island State Agenda, namely food security, green energy transition, economic diversification, sustainable industries, and the orange economy, and the COVID-19 recovery and social protection program. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, in that vein, our dialogue around the world intentionally invites investments in tourism, especially health tourism, a modern technologically based manufacturing industry, offshore education, green energy, public infrastructure that balances economic development and sustainability. That is the agenda for the economic development and investment. I want to thank those who are in that ministry, led, of course, by none other than Adina Richards, the new permanent secretary. Let us give her a round of applause. Moved out of education into this new area and is leading it with recognition and distinction. I want to thank the directors who are there, those who were with us at COP28, who marveled so many of the other participants there with the work that they were able to do and showcase as they showed their understanding and commitment towards the goals and ideals of the COP28 agenda and the St. Kitts and Nevis development agenda. Our main promotion hub the St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency, has spent considerable time, has used up considerable efforts and money to consolidate the promotion work that I have been doing as a minister across the globe. There's no area of the globe I have not touched over the last few months, because I am determined that the world must know that St. Kitts and Nevis has a new face, using the face of Douglas to reconnect with those who we had not seen for the last 7-8 years. It is not to say Douglas is back, it is Labour is back. That is what the message is, and people understand that. The agency's considerable efforts were spent promoting the investment climate available in the country. Our collaborative goal is to first get foreign direct inflows back to the pre-COVID-19 levels, back to the pre-2015 standards, and then into uncharted territory in terms of the quality, type, and quantity of investments. We are happy to report that the Cabinet has approved concessions for the development of a luxury brand hotel. That will take place. You will see the Prime Minister and the Minister of Tourism, and of course myself. You will see us breaking ground on yet another hotel, the first hotel since Labour left office in 2015. That is our work. That is our aim. That is our goal. Bring investment to the country so that people can work. That is what we have set out to do. This is going to cost over $100 million US in investment. And it promises to have not only 100 jobs during construction, if not more, but permanent jobs when this boutique hotel is functional. Under 2 years, it will be operational. And that is why we say, and you can say it with pride, Labour is back. Labour is back on the path to development. There is a total of over US $500 million of proposed investments in the pipeline. Saudi Arabia investment, Armenia investment. You're going to hear, those of you who don't know where Armenia is, you will know. Armenia investment. France and Germany and Canada, Venezuela, Guyana. We will have coming in a total of over US $500 million in proposed investments in the pipeline over the next few years, before the end of the term. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, we are on the move. How much more time do I have?
I will inform you when you're 10 minutes close.
Thank you.
Okay.
I want to say, Madam Deputy Speaker, that through the restaurant stimulus package, facilitated through Skipper, several new restaurants have benefited under this policy and have opened this year, namely Merengue at the Strip in Frigate Bay, Island Roaster in Frigate Bay, the Orchid Bay at Southeast Peninsula, and 2 new restaurants, the Surf and Sunny's Beach Lounge and Grill, opening within the Christmas season at the Strip in Frigate Bay. You think we're easy? As we continue our efforts to invite foreign direct investments into our country, we want to applaud the work of the Ministry of Entrepreneurship and Creative Economy in engaging small to medium-sized businesses on the ground. Throughout 2024, we will engage relatively large local businesses so that they can understand their challenges. And we can gain their input and insight to chart a course which carves out greater opportunities for their growth in and beyond the local economy. COVID is over, I want to say to our local investors. Let's get to know where your interest is. Early in the new year, we shall conduct that exercise, bringing all of the local businessmen together, especially those who are in charge of relatively local large businesses, the RAMs. We want to make sure that they can outline the opportunities that they may see or areas of interest for development. Horsford, Dilly Walwyn. We've been speaking recently to the Demerara distillers. They have ideas for expansion of their work here, rooted into the history of St. Kitts and Nevis, and become a major rum exporter. These businesses we will do business with. Apart, of course, from the local entrepreneurs that are being inspired by the Small Business and Entrepreneurship Ministry. We want to know if those who are established, can you reach out to the neighboring islands? How can we help you to reach out? Because if you are reaching out to the neighboring islands, maybe you would have to increase your workload here, your labor force here, in order to meet the demands overseas. That's what we want. And we are open to do business with the international, in the regional community in this regard. Madam Speaker, very quickly I must look at some of the concerns that we are challenged with. I make mention of the Whitegate Development Corporation, for example. The Whitegate Development Corporation came into being when the Labour administration back in 2005, 2004 took the decision to close the sugar industry. We said that the people down in the northwestern tip of the island were going to be the hardest hit as agricultural workers, many of whom were women folk who had never had more than a primary level education, had never known another job, had never gone into Basti or anywhere else to work. And we, with foresight and vision, created the Whitegate Development Corporation. So far, it is progressing. But it has had some setbacks because, of course, it is very, very clear that the government of the past that succeeded us never cared two hoots about the people's development in that area. When we created it, we spoke about reinvigorating the trade that existed before our time between St. Kitts and Nevis and the offshore islands. The same station and St. Bart's I mentioned a while ago. In fact, one of the showcases of the Whitegate Development Corporation was the Kittitian Hill development. A resort development, 3 resorts at least, provided opportunities for those who wanted to come and relax in a most exquisite, almost unheard of and unseen area for development. High up the mountain trail, monkeys being your friends and your neighbors, fruits all around you, an edible golf course. As you play golf on the golf course, you can pick a mango and eat it. farm to table. That was the idea, taking our tourism development to the next level. Alas, member for number 7 came on the scene as Prime Minister and hell broke
Honourable
loose.
Member for St. Christopher 6, 10 minutes remaining.
Yes, I hope there could be more than 10, but I understand. All hell broke loose, if I'm allowed to use that term here. Development halted at White Gate, especially at Kittitian Hill. For nearly 3 years, searching for corruption because of personal hatred for people who are engaged in that development. Madam Speaker, Deputy Speaker, that is now behind us. And one of the greatest challenges that I am finding, although it is not my remit as such, but as Minister of Economic Development, how do we get to restart that which was going and was deliberately suppressed? How do we restart it in this environment, especially after COVID? I can tell you, Madam Speaker, thousands of people have suffered as a result. Mothers, fathers who had a livelihood to feed their poor children lost that because of the spite of one man. Madam Speaker, we need to get beyond that. We need to get beyond that. And that is why the task of this ministry is not only to get beyond what has been stifled in the Whitegate development area with regard to the Kittitian Hill development, but we also need to move forward at Christophe Harbour development on the Southeast Peninsula. We had envisaged that development in St. Kitts in particular will take place from 2 ends. The northwestern end of the island and the Southeast Peninsula end with regard to Christophe Harbour. If you listen to the stories that are being told, how the developer had been put through difficulties in order to get Christophe Harbour moving forward, you would never ever believe it. But Madam Speaker, I give a firm commitment that whether or not there was a delay, deliberate or otherwise, the people of my area will continue to thrive. This budget must deliver to them what they have been asking for. They need houses. The Minister of Housing should hear me loudly and clearly here today. They need jobs. They must participate in the job market as one development comes on scene after another. The schools must be upgraded. Thank the Minister for naming me on a school. But the school itself needs to be upgraded. It needs to go to the next level. Sadler Secondary School, I speak of. Brilliant children there. But they need the support that is required to take them to the next level.
We'll get there.
Madam Deputy Speaker, there are areas in the constituency number 6, roads, areas that need to be turned into industrial parks, in Sadlers, in Newton Ground, on the western end of Newton Ground. We need to make sure that our people in that area, having suffered as a result of the closure of the industry, which many of them work for years, that they have alternatives. And this government must now deliver on those new alternatives for these people. Madam Deputy Speaker, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.